but I have actually done a few things. So let me catch you up and show you what I've done. For the most part, what I've been working on lately is the air system, replacing some components and such in that. So without further ado, let's get going. One of the first things I did was I replaced the air tank. I didn't know if there was anything wrong with them. I believe they were the original tanks, but I figured it was just cheap insurance to go ahead and switch them out. I went to Kenworth. They were able to find that they still made the exact same tank, but they wanted like $400. I think that was per tank. Anyway, it was a ridiculous price. These are generic tanks. They work just fine. The ports aren't necessarily in the exact same positions, but they're actually just a little bit bigger than the original tanks. So I replaced the tanks, and then I replaced like the emergency relief valves, drain valves. I rebuilt the check valve. Just like the originals, I kept a Schrader valve on the wet tank, so if you needed to in an emergency, you could fill it from an outside compressor. But yeah, new tanks underneath the truck here. They sit inboard of the fuel tank brackets. Speaking of fuel tank brackets, as a friend of mine put it, 12 busted a gut. So I came home one day and this bracket was like this. Now I knew they were bad. They were on my list to replace. You can see maybe that, I mean, there's a lot of corrosion and stuff that had built up on the underside of the steel strap between the rubber and the steel. They were on my list to replace. I knew they were bad. It was quite a surprise to come home and just see the strap like this. Might have moved up on the priority list just a little bit. These are steel straps. I looked online. It seems like pretty much all the replacement straps are stainless steel, which, to be honest, I like the look of a painted strap. I might actually just go to a welding shop, see if they can cut the threaded ends off, and then weld on new strap steel and just make new ones locally. So yeah, that happened. I replaced the governor on the air compressor as well. I was relieved to find that when I replaced the air tanks, they weren't really full of gunk or oil or anything, which is a good thing. Someday I may rebuild the compressor, but I don't feel a need for it right now, as long as it's not filling up my air tanks with oil. But I did go ahead and replace the governor because it was easy, just bolts on the top there. I replaced the pedal board and the brake treadle. It's an aftermarket treadle, but it seems well built and will work. Brake valve underneath is a Bendix E3. It is actually a Bendix air valve. I replaced that as well. The big story here is this pedal board. I replaced it with 1/4 inch aluminum sheet. The old one was really broken and busted up and just in not good shape at all. So I saved it just to show you guys what it looked like. There it is. That's the pedal board that came out. It's obviously a lot thinner material. I replaced it with thicker material. It was all busted. You can tell they had moved the throttle pedal forward a little bit at some point. When I built this new pedal board, I kept the throttle in the same position just because it's comfortable to me. But yeah, this is what came out. Now, because my new pedal board is thicker, when I replace the floor matting in here, I plan to just neatly, try to at least, butt the matting up against the edge of this thicker panel. So you'll still see the aluminum panel there, but overall I think this is a vast improvement on what was there. Alright, like I mentioned, I put a new Bendix E3 brake valve underneath. It's actually a remanufactured brake valve, but that is new underneath and it works much better. My old brake valve was a source of quite a bit of leaks actually, and so since I replaced this and a few other things, there have been a lot less air leaks on 12, which is always a good thing. Another thing I replaced on 12 is the brake valves in the cab, the push-pull valves for the spring brakes and trailer brakes. The original way 12 was designed had, I think it was called a Williams system. It's basically a modular system where you could add all the valves you needed. It had the spring brakes, it had trailer brakes, it had the front axle limiting valve, and it also, 12 originally had a air adjustable fifth wheel, which is long gone. Most of the components within that Williams valve set had gone bad, so over the years they had replaced them with just like PP1s, bendix valves. And so everything was just a mishmash of hoses and abandoned fittings and stuff in the dash. So I pulled all that out. I made this nice black plate, also out of 1/4-inch aluminum, to fill in the hole, or fill in the holes, I should say, that were left by the old systems. And then I put in new push-pull valves for spring brakes and trailer brakes, a new valve for my front axle limiting valve. And then at some point the spring brake valve was moved way over here because they needed space, so I was left with a hole. I still need to remove the stickers, but I got a hole filler plug, and then I added my push button switch for the electric windshield washer pump that I'm going to add to the truck. So it's not hooked up yet, I just stuck it in there to fill the hole. But this is a lot more sturdy than the original system. You know, the 1/4-inch aluminum really stiffens things up, and I think it looks nicer than it did. So that is my reconfigured dash, and I'm very much happy with it. Of course, the most important thing when I was redoing the air system was adding this sticker, Drain Air Tank Daily. I'm just kidding. I wanted it in here, but it probably isn't the most important thing. Like I said, I was lucky when I removed the old tanks. They weren't really full of gunk, which is a good thing. But this truck here has a very basic single circuit air system. Just got the 2 tanks, a wet tank and a dry tank. There's a check valve between the two. There's no air dryer, and because of that, it's definitely vitally important that you do drain the tanks every day to remove any accumulated moisture. So that's it. That's your brief update on 12. It's been a busy summer. Of course, I always wish that I could have done more, but I just keep plugging away. Thanks for watching. 12's been sitting here too long, so I need to move it so I can mow.